I want to turn it over to you. Again, welcome to all. And Alejandra, the session is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Tom. It is such a pleasure to be here and to see faces, friendly old faces, new faces, friends, colleagues. Thank you for being here. So welcome to the Zoom workshop. I'm glad to be here. So we're going to be talking about 5 resilience elements for nonprofits recovering from the pandemic. My name is Dr. Alejandra Acuna, and I'm so happy we're here to talk about this important topic. So I'd like to start by providing an introduction of my location of self. So I wanted to say that I used to, before a few years ago, introduce myself by, talking about my education, my work experience. But I've chosen to, in the last few years, also disclose purposefully my race, ethnicity, gender identity, and so on, to start a conversation about how my identities inform my vision, what I see and what I don't see, and to just reflect on how that might impact on our work together. So I am a cisgender woman, mother of an NYU senior, currently able-bodied. I'm Chicana from East Los Angeles, immigrant parents from Northern Mexico. And then my other information is listed there. And I love saying that I'm currently semi-retired, balancing love, work, and play. And what's also true is that I'm a recovering workaholic and recovering perfectionist. So I love saying that because I think people can relate to the range, the spectrum, the balance, and, just all of the parts of who we are. So I wanted to say that I've started to introduce myself in this way because I read an article, which I have made available. So it'll be part of what you get with the evaluation link tomorrow. So I read an article by Dr. Watts-Jones, and it's called Location of Self, Opening the Door to Dialogue on Intersectionality in the Therapy Process. And in the article, the author talks about how she introduces her location of self as a therapist to clients, or as in her role with trainees. And so I think about, what about as a manager with staff, or just as a provider to community members? So there's different ways that we can think about how to introduce our location of self. And she says she doesn't do it right away, not right at intake, but somewhere around treatment planning. So there's a few sessions under the belt, and then she brings us up. And she brings it up in such a beautiful way that I'm going to read what she says verbatim, because I just can't do this justice, paraphrasing. So she says, before going forward with therapy, I like to share a bit about myself. I do this because I believe that my training is only one of the lenses that helps me understand and work with problems in families. My personal experiences also inform my vision, what I see and don't see. And so I like to think about how my personal identities might be helpful or a limitation in our work together, and get your thoughts about this. I think it's important to be able to talk about this now and throughout therapy if either of us thinks we may have hit a roadblock or a pothole related to this. So I just think that's beautiful. And I offer that so that's my introduction to you, but I'd also offer that as if there's any way for you to include your location of self when you introduce yourself to staff, to trainees, or to community members that you work with, to acknowledge that there's parts of our identities, even professional, in professional contexts, that really to acknowledge that there are things that we see and that we don't see, and invite that conversation when, as it comes up. So after I've laid all of that out as an introduction, I invite you to reflect on a couple of questions. One is, how does it feel you right now, being in this Zoom room in this workshop, how does it feel to have a presenter, me, who is or has my identities? And does it raise concerns related to your status and to your perspectives? So just notice, just reflect. This is not a pair share. We're not going to do breakout rooms, or you don't have to type it in the chat, but just notice what comes up for you. And just know that whatever comes up, it's okay to notice. No judgment. and that we're really good students of our environment, meaning that there are biases, there are thoughts that come in. We've been very good students of our family, our culture, our society. And so what comes up as you notice is one question to reflect on. And then in a parallel process and in the spirit of self-reflection, I invite you to consider, if you're a manager, how might your staff feel about having a manager who is or has your identity, status, or perspectives? If you work with community members, how might community members feel about having a provider who is or has your identities, status, or perspectives? So just something to reflect on. Whatever thoughts or feelings came up as you were thinking about your identity in relation to mine, may or may not come up in relation to how communities or staff may feel in relation to your identities. So just something to think about, and a way to think about how can we have these conversations? How can we initiate these conversations? Okay, so let's get to it. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to start with the five resilience elements and where they come from. So a worldwide panel of experts met and they identified 5 elements that could be used to guide efforts to recover after community exposure to extreme stress. And I think it's fair to say that everyone in this room, everyone we work with, our loved ones, our family, our friends, everybody has really been impacted by the multiple unpredictable events of our world. And so that's why we're here. I assume we're here to talk about, so what now? How do we recover? You know, having been through what we've all been through, how do we recover? And so I want to offer to you a discussion and some activities to guide your interactions, to guide your practices in the workplace. And I hope that we can learn and teach each other as we talk about these elements. But really, it's my hope that at the end of the workshop, that you will feel validated and that you'll realize that there's a lot that you're doing right. And so it's not about coming in and telling you what to do. It's validating, like, you know, those things that you've been focusing on, like, yeah, it makes sense. A worldwide panel of experts agree that that's important to focus on. So I hope that you feel validated as well as you learn and teach. Okay, so I'd like to check in or invite you to check in, because we're going to start with a progressive muscle relaxation exercise. And so I invite you to check in, and this one you can type into the chat. How do you feel in your body right now? What messages are you receiving in your body right now? Our bodies are so incredibly wise. And when we check into our bodies, they have so much wisdom to share with us. So take a moment to just do a body scan and notice what you're feeling. And if you want to quantify that on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is not calm at all, and 1 is not calm at all, and 10 is the calmest you've ever felt in your life. Where are you right now? So a feeling, a message, or a number. I invite you to type it into the chat, just so we get a baseline. Where are you right now on Thursday, November 10th at 4:26 p.m. Thank you. Okay, so this is where our baseline is. Okay, beautiful. So the next slide is actually one of my favorite, and thank you for participating. One of my favorite activities, and I have to tell you, I do this all the time in person, virtually, at the beginning of learning, of sharing, of working. And I've started staff meetings with this. I've started classes with this. And so I invite you to participate. And my motto is, why sit when you can lay down? And I think that's the beauty of virtual. If you are in a space where you can actually lay down, I would lay down. I'm always like, oh, why sit when you can lay down? Yes, I'm laying down. So I'm going to sit so I can walk you through it. But if you are in a place where you can lay down, like you're working from home or you're in an office where you can close the door and lay down, please feel free to do so. So I'm going to walk you through this progressive muscle relaxation. So we're going to do this together. And immediately after the progressive muscle relaxation exercise, I've decided to walk you through a loving kindness meditation. And both have an incredible amount of research showing their benefit. And I'll explain that a little bit later. But we're going to do it first because as a curandero or a folk healer from Mexico told researchers once, some things have to be experienced to be understood. So we're going to experience the progressive muscle relaxation exercise, and we're going to experience the loving kindness. And then I'll explain a little bit about the research, what the research says about the impact. Okay. So I invite you to sit straight up in your chair if you're sitting. If you're laying down, right on. Sit straight up, head and neck aligned, bum all the way to the back of the chair, feet flat on the ground. Hopefully they reach. And take a deep breath in and out. On the in-breath, I invite you to notice that your belly expands like a balloon. So the air goes into your lungs, past your diaphragm, and then into your belly. So it really stretches out like a balloon on the in-breath. So let's take a deep breath in and out. One more time, deep breath in and out. So the first muscle that we're going to tighten and relax are our fists. So I invite you to make a fist with your hands and squeeze it really tight and take a deep breath in and out. And now shake out your fists and notice the difference between tense and relaxed. Let's do that again. Squeeze your hands like you're making a fist, squeeze, hold, breathe. And relax, shake it out. We're going to do the same thing now with our arms. Squeeze our arms like we're making a muscle, hold, breathe, and relax, shake it out. And we're going to scrunch up our face and hold it and breathe. And relax. All right, let's bring our shoulders up to our ears, squeeze and hold and breathe. And relax. Okay, this is my favorite part. So I invite you to carefully, if you're sitting, if you're laying down, you're good. But if you're sitting, I invite you to lean forward in your chair and gently make sure that you are clear of anything. So lean gently down and feel the stretch in your lower back. Let your head gently hang and breathe. Oh, and sit back up. I should have given you a heads up. I like to take a few breaths in that position because it feels like such a nice stretch in my lower back. So I usually do like three counts there. And now I invite you again, if you're sitting, let's do the opposite motion where you lean back in your chair. So go ahead and lean back in your chair, tighten up your stomach muscles, breathe, let your head gently hang. And slowly sit back up. Okay, now we're going to do our legs. So if you're sitting, raise your legs in front of you. And again, gently to make sure you don't hit anything, you're clear. Point your toes towards the wall in front of you. Squeeze your leg muscles, squeeze your bum, hold it and breathe. And relax. Bring your legs gently down to the ground. One more time, we're going to lift our legs up in the air in front of us. Point our toes towards our face this time. So feel the stretch in your calves. Tighten up your leg muscles, tighten up your bum, hold it, breathe. And relax. I invite you to scan your whole body. Notice if there's any part of your body that feels tense or tight. And I invite you to imagine that that part of your body that feels tense or tight, imagine that that part is a marshmallow. And imagine that the warm sun is gently melting the marshmallow. And take a deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. So now we're going to transition to the loving kindness meditation. So continue to sit or lay down, whichever you've decided. And with your whole body feeling relaxed, bring your attention inward. Without straining or concentrating, just relax and gently follow the instructions. Taking a deep breath in and out. And you could either keep your eyes closed or gaze on a fixed object, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And I invite you to think of a person close to you who loves you very much. It could be someone from the past or the present. It could be a teacher or a guide. Imagine that person standing on your right side, and they are sending you love. That person is sending you wishes for your safety, for your well-being, your happiness. Feel the warm wishes and love coming from that person towards you. Now bring to mind the same person or another person or pet who cherishes you deeply. Imagine that person standing on your left side, sending you wishes for your wellness, for your health and happiness. Feel the kindness and the warmth coming to you from that person. Really feel the warmth. Imagine like your hands are dipping into warm sand on the beach. Really feel the warmth in your hands and in your body. Now imagine that you are surrounded on all sides by all the people who love you and who have loved you. Picture all of your friends and loved ones surrounding you. Picture all of your ancestors, whatever part of the world your ancestors are from. They are standing, sending you wishes for your happiness, well-being, and health. Bask in the warm wishes and love coming from all sides. You are filled and overflowing with warmth and love. Enjoy that moment. All your people sending you warm wishes and love. Now bring your awareness back to the person standing on your right side. Begin to send the love that you feel back to that person. You and this person are similar. Just like you, this person wishes you to be happy. Send all your love and warm wishes to that person. And you may repeat the following phrases silently. May you live with ease. May you be happy. May you be free from pain. So you're welcome to send the person who's standing on your right those wishes. May you live with ease. May you be happy. May you be free from pain. Now focus your awareness on the person standing on your left side and begin to direct the love within you to that person. Send all your love and warmth to that person. That person and you are alike. Just like you, that person wishes to have a good life. And repeat the following phrase silently. Just as I wish to, may you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and happiness. Now I invite you to think of an acquaintance, someone you don't know very well, and toward whom you do not have any particular feeling. You and this person are alike in your wish to have a good life. And you can send them your wishes by repeating the following phrase. Just as I wish to, may you also live with ease and happiness. Just as I wish to, may you also live with ease and happiness. Now expand your awareness and picture the whole globe in front of you as a little ball, and send warm wishes to all living beings on the globe who, like you, want to be happy. And I invite you to silently say to them, the world, the whole globe, just as I wish to, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Just as I wish to, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Take a deep breath in and out. Another deep breath in and let it go. Notice the state of your mind and how you feel after this relaxation and this meditation. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes and join us in the Zoom room again. And now I invite you to again check in. So type in the chat a word or a feeling or a message that you're getting from your body right now. And the number, when you scan your body right now, what number are you feeling? 1 is not calm at all the way up to 10, the calmest I've ever felt in my life. Where are you on the scale right now? So I invite you to type in the chat a feeling, a message, or a number. Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for commenting in the chat. I'm glad to hear the messages you're getting. I wanted to just say a few words. One is that the progressive muscle relaxation, very brief. It's really like a 4-minute body and brain break. So think about how you could incorporate a 4-minute body and brain break into your day, into your staff meetings. And how would that shift the energy that you're feeling, the energy in the room? And Dr. Bruce Perry, who talks about the brain and the neurosequential model, says that a 4-minute body and brain break can prevent meltdowns and not just for toddlers. We tend to associate meltdowns with toddlers, but I definitely have experienced my own meltdown experience, especially in the last few years. So I love the idea of taking body and brain breaks just to prevent our meltdowns. And then I wanted to say that the loving kindness meditation has tons of research. And something that I want to highlight is that findings have shown that it reduces implicit bias and can prevent burnout, which I think are like incredible findings, especially for us today and in the workplace. So I have the script that you're welcome to use, but I also wanted to point out that if you Google UCLA MARC, M-A-R-C, there is, and I'm gonna go to it so you can see.
To begin this practice,
Oops. I want to show you that if you go to the website, UCLA Mindful Awareness Research Center, there are English and Spanish and actually up to 15 languages available in a number of different meditations, including the loving kindness meditation. So if you wanted something to like start your staff meeting or start your session with the client, or just right before bedtime, if you're having a hard time settling down or settling in, wherever it fits, I invite you to check out that resource. Okay, so let's jump in. I wanted to frame our discussion around brain science because sometimes people have a hard time with relaxation exercises, especially if they've never done them, or even meditations. And I really wanted to share why the things that we're going to be talking about today, these resilient elements, why they might be important in the workplace. And if we understood our brain better, it would make complete sense. So Dr. Perry talks about the brain and the neurosequential model of the brain, which is just a fancy way to say that our brain develops from the bottom up. So the brain first, as we develop, we first develop the brainstem, the most primitive part of the brain that's responsible for survival. And then we develop the limbic part of our brain, so the middle part of our brain, which is all about emotions and relationships. Do I belong here? Am I connected to other people? And then finally, the third part of the brain, the cortex, develops last. And it's the smartest part of our brain, which is responsible for thinking, learning, reasoning, and my favorite, creativity. And I feel like now more than ever, with so much unpredictability, uncertainty, in order to recover, we need to bring our best thinking, our best creativity to redesign what we're doing in the workplace, because we all know that with the Great Resignation, with quiet quitting, that it's just not working. And it hasn't been working. And so what do we want to develop now? And in order to really access the smartest, most creative part of our brain, not only does our brain develop from the bottom up, but information comes into our brain from the bottom up. So when information comes in, we first need to feel calm and safe. So that's why psychological safety or developing a culture of safety in the workplace is so important. And then we need to relate and feel connected to others. And so that's why belonging and inclusion is so important. And then in order for us to really think, learn, be creative, redesign, we really need to attend to safety and relationships first. Okay. And then I wanted to give you, I love talking about resilience. I feel like talking about resilience builds my resilience because it's so hopeful. So I wanted to just share a couple of concepts about the phenomenon of resilience. And the way I see it is that resilience has four distinct components. One is the risk. that there has to be some sort of risk involved. And we've had plenty of risk in the last few years. And risk can show up as stress, adversity, illness, violence, historical trauma, or discrimination. So there's some element of risk in resilience. And then there's also protective factors, buffering factors, resilience factors, which could take the form of personal or individual level protective factors or environmental, external protective factors. And then finally, a positive outcome. So I feel like resilience has been like a buzzword. It's almost become cliche. And I just wanted to take a moment to break down 4 components that I think are essential when talking about or thinking about resilience. We all understand that there's a risk involved, but we also can benefit from understanding that both personal and environmental protective factors play into it, that risk is not the last word in our outcomes, that our personal and environmental protective factors also have a say in the outcome when it comes to resilience. Okay, and so on that theme, I listed on the slide various individual level or personal protective factors, and I invite you in the chat to type as many as apply to you. And if all of them apply to you, type all of them, claim them. So go ahead and look through the slide and feel free to type into the chat all of the protective factors that pertain to you. So go ahead and thank you. Okay, all. Thank you, Luz. So for me, when I look at the list, definitely humor. You're like, where? I haven't seen it yet. But humor, inner direction. I wish I was more perceptive. I think I rely on some of my friends. In fact, some of my friends are in this Zoom room right now. And I would call her out as being very perceptive. Positive view of the personal future, for sure. That's one of mine. Flexibility, love of learning. Thank you for typing in. Evelyn, I co-sign. Humor is definitely one of your protective factors. I've seen it. Ashley, perseverance, love of learning. Oh my gosh, yes. Hopeful. So some people in the room I actually know in other contexts. So I love it because it's like, yes, I co-sign. I agree. I agree that with your protective factors. Okay, thank you. So what I also would like to say is it's so cool to like claim them, right? To say, humor and service and independence, those all apply to me. Now I invite you to think about how can you lean into your strengths to overcome a challenge or achieve a goal? Or how have you? Like, what's the last challenge that you've had to overcome? Or what's the last goal that you achieved? How did you use any one of your strengths to do that? So I would love it if you would type that into the chat. How can you lean into your strengths, or how have you used one of your strengths to overcome a challenge or achieve a goal? I know for me, if I really thought about this, I think whenever I try something new, I'm super excited, but at the same time, I'm super nervous. And one of the things I do is I immerse myself in information. So love of learning definitely helps me to regulate my worry or anxiety or nervousness about doing something new. Norma says, by not taking myself too seriously. So Norma uses, as soon as you're saying you use your humor in the face of challenges. And I think that helps because when we're challenged, we often look at the person who's the most calm to lead. And so I think that if we are not panicking, or if we're not catastrophizing, then it's easier to stay calm and think clearly. Melissa says, I find support in relationships to feel validated and keep going. Yes, yes, yes. Social support is a top resilience factor. So that makes sense. No matter what challenge you're trying to overcome, reaching out to relationships, whether they're offering emotional support, like, man, that's hard, or, oh, this is a pickle you're in, or offering you like, wow, here's somewhere here's a resource. Either way. Let's see. Susan says, I just broke my foot, so my independence is challenged. So you're leaning on perseverance, life skills, and humor. Oh, I feel for you, Susan. Yeah, 4 years ago, I shattered my ankle, and yeah, it's amazing how that disability, even temporary, can really affect so many areas of your life. So good for you for drawing or leaning into your perseverance, life skills, and humor. Ashley says, love of learning allows me to continuously feel excited and passionate about my field. And I have to say, I know Ashley, and I have seen that in action. She is passion and excitement and learning incarnate. Let's see, Lou, self-motivation, service, perseverance, and love of learning has helped me have my own business for the past 6 years. Again, I co-sign. I was there when she was thinking about it, pre-contemplation, contemplation, and action, and now 6 years later, has her own business. So yes, has used all of that, self-motivation, service, perseverance, and love of learning to get there. Stephanie says, I had the opportunity to guest lecture at CSUN yesterday. Yay! And I definitely leaned into my humor. I love it because that was scary. Yeah, public speaking is no joke. Stephanie, you're not alone. I love that the US research says that the #1 fear of most Americans is not death, but public speaking. And so you're not kidding there. I'm so glad you leaned into your sense of humor. Norma says, love of learning, seeing every challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. That's definitely a mindset. And it's definitely helpful when you are walking into an opportunity to learn and grow, or a crisis, and thinking of it as an opportunity to learn and grow. And then Carol, perseverance, love of learning, completing my LCSW hours and getting ready to take the test. Again, I love seeing friends on this, because Carol, she was a student in one of my classes, actually a number of my classes. And so it's so beautiful to go from a student, an MSW student, to now completing your hours and getting ready to take the test. I love it. So thank you for participating. And I invite you to think about how you can talk about protective factors in the workplace more. When you're setting team goals or addressing team challenges or crises, like integrating, how can we use our individual and collective strengths to lean into whatever goal or challenge we're working on? And how can you invite the people that you work with, your staff, your clients, the community that you serve? How can you invite them to identify their strengths and to think about how they might use their strengths in whatever challenge or goal they're trying to achieve? Okay. Next slide. So this one is, just so you know, it's going to go out tomorrow as part of the deck. These are environmental protective factors. So we have not only the strengths that we have inside, but the strengths in our environment, in our community. So here are some reflection questions that you can journal about, or that you can discuss with a trusted colleague. I love saying that at this stage in my life, and on the Mexica calendar, I'm an elder. So at this stage in my life, I feel like I don't have any more answers. I have really deep questions, though. So I offer you some reflection questions that you can consider after this workshop. Okay, so the first element in the resilience elements that this worldwide panel of experts identified is sense of safety. And so we feel a sense of safety when we have consistency in our lives. And we certainly have not had consistency. We've had a lot of uncertainty and not predictability. And I wanted to say that safety, when we mean safety, we mean physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, and financial safety and stability. And so what's very interesting to me is that because of the Great Resignation, because of quiet quitting, people are really starting to take notice about psychological safety in the workplace. So psychological safety is broadly defined as a climate in which people are comfortable expressing and being themselves. And so if you thought about it, on a scale of 1 to 10, where does your workplace stand right now in terms of, do you feel like you could express yourself and bring your whole self to work? And so what does that look like in the workplace? Well, it's working together well, where staff feel free to contribute ideas, share information, and even report mistakes. What it doesn't look like or is holding back or being reluctant to say or ask something because it might somehow make us look bad if we contributed. So there's a spectrum of psychological safety. And why this is important is there was a 2017, so pre-pandemic Gallup poll, found that only three out of 10 employees strongly agreed with the statement that their opinions count at work. Only 3 out of 10 strongly agreed that their opinions count at work. And so Gallup calculated that if we just move the ratio from 3 to 6 out of 10, then organizations would see a 20% reduction in turnover, a 40% reduction in safety incidents, and a 12% increase in productivity. And so it's not enough to try to recruit. If we really want to unleash individual and collective talent in the workplace, then we really need to find ways to foster a psychologically safe climate where employees feel free to contribute ideas, share information, and report mistakes. So not an environment of gotcha, but let's figure it out together. Okay, so Angelica offers, with my immediate team, I feel safer being my authentic self, but not my entire organization. So in the immediate team, yes, on a scale of 1 to 10, but as we move out, what could the entire organization, and I suspect that might be other people's experiences. So how can we replicate, how can we institutionalize, how can we spread what's happening on a smaller team to the larger organization? And then was that Gallup poll pre-pandemic? Deborah asks. Yes, it was a 2017 poll, so it was pre-pandemic, absolutely. Okay, so the next resilience element, so resilience element number 2 from what the worldwide panel came up with is ability to calm. And so I started our workshop with the relaxation exercise, the progressive muscle, as well as the loving kindness, just to give you 2 immediate, like, do you see how short the time was, the time invested, and the impact of the time invested? And so what would happen, and it's, these exercises are not meant to be one and done. They're meant to be done on a routine basis, on a regular basis. So what would happen if we started all staff meetings with a 4 to 7 minute relaxation or meditation activity, or supervision, or what have you? What if we committed to those things? How would it change the energy in the room, in the culture over time? So calm is feeling safe and protected in our bodies and thoughts. And so we think of, feeling bodily safe, but I want to include or add or highlight that choosing our thoughts can make us feel calm. So for example, saying to ourselves, things tend to work out. So if we walk around saying to ourselves, things tend to work out, or I can figure this out. This is a new crisis, but I have dealt with, at this stage in our workplace game, we have dealt with other crises in the past and we've figured them out. So this one is new, but with my track record of figuring things out, I can probably or I feel confident that I can figure this one out. So just walking around with those thoughts can make us feel calmer and safer. The ability to regulate one's emotions, thoughts, and behavior effectively in different situations can be a way to describe the ability to calm. So I wanted to ask you really quick, so I'm paying attention to the time. I wanted to ask you really quick, sort of like a cognitive behavioral exercise. I invite you to type into the chat. If your supervisor said, oh, I really need to talk to you, will you come into my office? What is your first thought? What is your first thought? Your supervisor says, I really need to talk to you. Will you come in? Uh-oh, what did I do? Yes, yikes. And that is, you see how there's a theme? There's a theme because, and that's called automatic negative thoughts. It just seems to, just don't ask me to close the door. Yes, core schema, that's right. It digs deep into our core beliefs, and our first automatic negative thought may or may not be the most helpful thought. And so that's why I say that before we even walk into the room, if we're thinking more work, yikes, what did I do now? We're likely to, our blood pressure, our cortisol, we're likely to be panicked. And we don't even know, we're not even at the bridge yet. So I just wanted us to notice that sometimes our automatic negative thoughts are creating the stress that we're feeling in our bodies, and that we could ask ourselves something differently, like, I wonder what's important. That feels a little more neutral, like just curiosity versus what did I do? What's important versus what did I do? And obviously, what did I do is going to generate a whole host of feelings, whereas thinking, I wonder what's important, that, she needs me now, it might generate a whole other set of feelings. So just being aware of our automatic negative thoughts. You are not alone. It's not pathological. You're not a bad person. We just all seem to have them. But if we slow down the thought train, we can be like, whoa, why am I thinking this is bad? I don't even know what this is. Let me just see what this is. So moving from an automatic negative thought to a more neutral or helpful other thought. Okay. I wanted to say that the third resilience element that the worldwide panel of experts identified was connectedness. And I love this triangle. I found this triangle, and I'm sure it looks familiar. This is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but in the workplace. And I want you to see this triangle. And when I saw this triangle, not only did I love that belonging needs were on here, belonging, association, receiving friendship, cohesion, valued as a team member, common goals, acceptance by fellow workers and colleagues. Of course, this is a core fundamental need, which is why we're here talking about it. But what strikes me about this triangle is it reminds me a lot of Bruce Perry's neurosequential model of the brain. So physiological needs, safety needs reminds me of the brainstem, and then the belonging needs reminds me of the limbic brain, and then esteem and self-actualization, reaching one's true potential, the cortex. So I love that Maslow came up with these core fundamental needs that build on each other, and that this mirrors what Bruce Perry is now learning and teaching about the model of the brain. So I love this slide. And then I wanted to acknowledge that this worldwide panel of experts highlighted connectedness as an important element, and connectedness and belonging are actually part of DEI strategies: diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, accessibility. And I love this definition. Belonging is being able to be yourself and feel valued and accepted for who you are. Employees feel like they belong when their diverse thoughts, not when everybody thinks the same, but when their diverse perspectives, thoughts, feelings are valued in the organization. Okay, again, I love saying, I don't have answers at this stage in my life. I don't have answers. I only have deep questions. So again, these reflection questions will be available to you when you get the PowerPoint slides tomorrow. And so I invite you to, again, journal, discuss them with a trusted colleague, bring them into a staff meeting, bring one question that maybe you guys can, maybe it's an icebreaker at a staff meeting. Let's talk about this. I went to a workshop, and how do we understand this? How do we see this in our team or in the workplace? Okay, next slide. So the fourth element in the 5 resilience elements is self-efficacy and community efficacy. So before we talk about it, let's define it, because those are mouthfuls. So self-efficacy is the belief in one's own ability to succeed in achieving an outcome or reaching a goal. So we really need to believe that we can in order to even start. We don't even try if we don't believe we can. So it's an I can attitude, and it influences how we think, behave, and feel. And it turns out that the more we face moderate challenges and succeed, the more capable we are of facing bigger challenges. And then community efficacy is very related. Now, instead of me working on my own, now it's working together in solidarity with others for a greater cause. And community efficacy can exist when our belief in ourselves strengthens our belief in our collective ability to solve problems and make action plans. And one of the many reasons why self and community efficacy are so important after stressful events, especially on a mass scale, is that if you think about it, during traumatic events, it's understandable. I mean, it's the definition of trauma. It's understandable that to feel helpless in the middle of the trauma, like in the middle of the pandemic. I remember at the beginning, it was like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, some of my colleagues were like, I stayed home, I used a mask, and I still got COVID. Like, I don't understand. Like, there was so much uncertainty, and I really felt helpless. Like I was doing everything I could, but I was hearing colleagues saying that they got sick anyway. And so I was feeling a bit helpless because I felt like we didn't know enough. We didn't have control. And so what's interesting about helplessness and trauma is that we might carry that sense of helplessness to other areas of our life. So in the moment of the traumatic event, it's understandable to feel helpless. But when we start taking that feeling of helplessness into other aspects of our life, then you can see where it's no longer serving us. This natural, understandable reaction now becomes a mindset, and it is not a mindset that serves us. So, and then community efficacy, we can regain our belief that we can cope with stressful events, even if the situation is completely new and different. We've never dealt anything like this before. We can regain the belief that individually and collectively, we can figure it out. And that feels way more hopeful. And we're more likely to develop goals, strategic plans, if we come from this mindset. But we can understand how this mindset can be hampered by mass trauma. So how can we develop a sense of self-efficacy in ourselves and in our staff? If we're managers or supervisors, how can we develop this? So we can provide modeling and training opportunities. Like today, the fact that you're all here and we're talking about this, we're calling attention to this, we're being self-aware that maybe there's a part of me that still feels helpless, when it's understandable that it helped me or it made sense there and then, but in the here and now, I no longer need to feel helpless. I have personal protective factors. I have relationships that I can draw from. There are things that I can do. So providing modeling and training opportunities for staff about how to set goals and identify strategies for sticking to goals, even when it gets difficult. Noticing and celebrating successes by acknowledging successes, skills, talents, and strategies that we use to achieve our goals. So it's really easy when we're starting to feel sad or even depressed to only notice the negative things happening. even though we know that the negative and the positive always exist side by side, but when we're feeling sad or blue or depressed, it's easy to overfocus on the negative and ignore the good stuff that's happening. So just starting to acknowledge the good stuff that's happening sort of helps to balance the brain in terms of what it's seeing or focusing on. And then encouraging support, involvement in committees, and leadership roles and opportunities. So that's another thing. One of the factors of the Great Resignation and quite quitting is that staff were saying, there's no room for me to grow. So I feel like I'm stuck in my job. But if we allowed and we encouraged and supported people to get involved in committees and build their leadership skills, they would go from that feeling, that aching feeling of helplessness, to a feeling of agency. Okay, and then finally, last but not least, there's hope. So this is the fifth resilience element that the worldwide panel of experts identified as being critical to recovery. So hope is being able to envision a better future, which helps us to take the steps to make it happen. So we have to imagine, we have to believe before we can even take a step in the direction. Hope is a thinking process that taps a sense of agency and the awareness of steps necessary to achieve one's goals. And agency is a feeling of control over actions. Thank you, Ashley, for joining us. Is feeling control over actions and consequences and the ability to take charge of one's life. So it's really the opposite of helplessness. Hope is the opposite of helplessness. Sometimes I've heard colleagues or clients say, like, I had no choice but to survive. And I say, give yourself some credit. You had a choice. You had a choice between despair and hope, and you chose hope. So give yourself some credit for that choice. Okay. So what does that science of hope teach us? Hope is actually linked to overall physical, psychological, and social well-being. So it's not just this touchy-feely, like woo-woo notion. It's actually something that has been measured and linked to really positive outcomes. And individuals who can identify a means, a way, a pathway to carry out goals, and the ability, the belief that they can initiate and sustain action towards goals are considered more hopeful. Okay, so as a manager, how can you instill hope in your staff? So some practical tips are to, again, remember to focus, list, name, talk about successes, strengths, and resources, develop our coping skills. So for example, in this workshop, we practiced 2 coping skills that are not one and done, that can be integrated regularly in our daily practice and culture. Provide opportunities to make positive contributions. It's really amazing. We all love to have a voice and a vote in the things that happen around us. And so giving people opportunities to make positive contributions, including to just voice a different perspective. Like I noticed that sometimes I'm in meetings, and if I disagree, I realize if I just state what I think, it's going to disagree with what some people are saying. So I may burn up some social capital. Do I want to disagree with the other ideas that are being given? And fortunately, I've learned at this age, like, oh, I can say, I see your perspective, and then I see things this way. So yes, and. So how can we make it safe so nobody feels like an outsider? Everybody feels like your perspective matters. Your perspective matters. Everybody's perspective matters. And if you think about it, it's very practical, because then we're more likely to get a 360 view of the problem if we make it safe for everybody's perspective to be included. Okay, so now I'm going to stop talking because I invite you to share in the chat. I know we went through this kind of quickly because I was watching the time, but is there one takeaway? Today is Thursday. Tomorrow is a holiday for many. So one takeaway that you could possibly see yourself using on Monday. Feel free to type it in the chat. A takeaway from everything we've talked about. Not sure what that, 4, self-efficacy and community advocacy. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, I don't understand your meaning, Brian, but I think I made the connection. Helping staff feel regulated before relaying info in a meeting. Yes, Melissa, yes. Ability to calm, finding ways to pause throughout the day. I love it. Thank you, Evelyn. Yeah, the idea is that I suspect that you do this. Now you're like, that's why I do it. My brain. Okay, I have permission to do it more. Angelica, your ability to calm. Okay. Susan, connectedness and belonging, encouraging collaboration. And I love it because maybe, Susan, you love doing this anyway, but you feel like now you've got research that backs me up. So now I'm like really like a champion of collaboration, because not only is it feels good, but there's good reason for it. Calm first, then problem solve. Yes, 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 yes. Sharing what you bring to the table with the team through location of self. Yes, I love it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I love your takeaways. And now I invite you, okay, Stephanie, instilling hope in my team that I supervise because they're awesome. And I'm not just saying that because one of them is in the training. I believe you, Stephanie. I believe you. If they are still there, hanging in there with you, then yes, they are awesome, because it has not been easy to hang in there the last 3 years. So I believe you. So I invite you, I call this una palabra, one word, and I learned it from one of my mentors, Dr. Rita Ledesma. So I invite you to type into the chat one word that reflects your thoughts, feelings, or reflections at the close of our workshop. So one word that represents any thoughts, feelings, or reflections you may have at this point. Thank you. Positivity, gratitude, hopeful. I'm going to ask Brian to send me this chat file so I can make a word cloud with all your beautiful words. Yes. See, I set the intention, and Deborah and Angelica both feel validated. Yes. That's what I'm saying, is like a worldwide panel of experts meet, and it turns out you are already doing a lot of this stuff. And it's not like you need to start doing new stuff. It's like, now you're walking away feeling like, yeah, I was doing this and now I feel validated to do more. Absolutely. Motivated, hopeful, grateful. Thank you. I appreciate you. So tomorrow, as Tom said, you will get in the mail the evaluation link. And I know that we all appreciate feedback, what we could do different, better, other topics that you need. You will receive the handout of the personal protective factors. So the list that you saw on the slide, you'll get a handout that you can use. The script of the progressive muscle relaxation. You'll get the article that I mentioned, location of self. And you'll also get the article, 5 essential elements. That's the article that that the Worldwide Panel of Experts wrote. And then, of course, you'll get a PDF version of this PowerPoint. So you'll get a lot of resources that you're welcome to use and digest and integrate into your work. And then stay in touch, please. Here's my information. If you want to follow up and email me, or you have any questions, would like me to come out to your agency, whatever makes sense. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Pleasure to hear you. Oh, thank you, Yvette. Thank you, Evelyn. So I love inviting friends and colleagues, because I know that I got support in the room, but actually I meditated right before. And so I set the intention that we would all learn and teach each other. And so I feel like those intentions have been accomplished. Okay, I see that it's 5:21. I added some bonus slides, and I just thought I'll send them to you. But I've got 9 minutes, and I'm going to use them, because what I'm about to give you changed my life. And whenever I share this with anybody, it changes their life. Okay, so I want to say that the tip of the iceberg are thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. But really what runs deep are our beliefs. And I would say, have you ever been to, like, I really love nutritionists and personal trainers. And have you ever heard that 80% of weight loss is what you eat? Have you heard that? and only, 20% is exercise. Well, my theory is that 80% of self-care and resilience and well-being is our beliefs. And 20% is our thoughts and feelings and behavior. And so what do I mean by this? It means that if we are feeling overly responsible, overworked, overstretched, then likely there's some mindset, there's some belief that is driving us, that it's somehow noble, that we need to sacrifice ourselves, not just in a crisis, but like all the time. And that's what's making us feel, it's that chronic self-sacrifice that is making us feel so exhausted. So I'm going to offer you, this is from transactional analysis, and you don't need to, that's all I'm going to say. That you don't need to know more about that. It's actually a really simple concept. So if you just play along with me, this concept says that in all of us, in me, in you, we each have three parts: the parent, the adult, and the child part. So I invite you to type into the chat, what do you think is the function or the role of the parent part in you? What do you think, what role, what function, what does the parent part in you do? How does it serve you? Assuming we all have a parent part, what is the role of the parent part? And go ahead, type it in the chat. So what is the parent part? Tries to remind us to eat and drink water. Yes, self-discipline, critic. I love it. So you're already hitting that. There's some good things, some not so good things. The parent part we're like ambivalent about. Thank you for reminding me to drink water, but geez, do you have to be so critical, caring for others, guidance? So there's positive and negatives to the parent part in all of us. I love it. Right out the gate, you got that. Okay, let's move to the child part. What is the purpose of the child part in all of us? What does the child part do for us? How does it serve us? What is the function of the role? Play. Let me live my best life. Déjame. Let me live my best life. Play, fun, keeps my spirit alive, allows us to be curious. I love it. Any others? These are all positive, wonderful. Okay, in some circles, be present in the moment, living in the moment, eager to learn, gleefully run into my day. Okay, so I love it. In some circles, what comes up is like immature, irresponsible. My inner child is who thinks is constantly in trouble. Oh, yeah. So there's, again, good and positive and not so positive aspects. So knowing what the parent part does and what the child part does for us, what do you think is the role or the function of the adult part in us? What is the role of the adult? What does the adult do? So, yes. So, yes. So the adult is the decider. It's the CEO, the executive director, if you will. The adult says, considering what the parent is saying to do and considering what the child wants to do, what am I going to do? Yes, the adult is driving the bus. It's calling the shots. It's keeping things in check and trying to keep us balanced. You got it. You holding me accountable for all my actions. Okay, so I invite you now to look at person A. And just by eyeballing person A and the size of their parts, describe person A to me. What is person A like? What adjectives would you use to describe person A? Immature. Thank you. And please don't tag any of your friends or coworkers, whether they're on this call or not. Not responsible, c'est la vie, that sort of carefree. Yes. Okay. So again, don't tag, but who does person A remind you of? Okay. Don't type it in the chat. Just think, who does person A remind you of? Okay. Or what you can say, does person A remind you of anybody? So just give me a thumbs up if you're like, yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. I think we all can. Thank you, Deborah. Okay. Now think of person B. Describe person B to me. Rigid. Norma's like on it. I was just waiting for you to ask. Thank you, Norma. Rigid. What else? Critical. Yes, controlling. Thank you. Okay. And then again, don't type it in the chat. Protector. Thank you, Les. More strengths focused, Angel. Thank you. So don't type it in the chat, but who does person B remind you of? And then further, who do you, on most days, who do you feel more like, person A or person B? And don't type it in the chat, but just reflect on who do you feel more like on most days? And if you notice, it looks like person A and person B, it almost looks like they're drawn to each other, like opposites attract, because it almost looks like balance if they come together. And initially it might seem that way, like person A balances out person A. So person B might say, oh, or person A might say, oh, person B is so responsible, like let me be their friend, or let me be their romantic partner, or let me go to their agency and the staff can help me out because I'm in a pickle right now. And person B can say like, oh, person A seems like so fun loving and interesting and spontaneous, and I would love to work with this person. And then over time, person A starts to resent person B, and then person B starts to resent person A. Because person B is like, you're not the boss of me. Why are you talking to me like you're my parent or like I'm a child? Person B is like, I tell you what to do, but you never listen. I feel like I'm just talking in the wind. So over time, although this match may seem like a match made in heaven, there's resentment on both sides. And so I invite you to consider what would happen, and these are more reflection questions. What would happen if we were more balanced? What if we allowed ourselves to be more balanced? That is, what if we allowed the adult part in us, or what if the adult part in us decided that both our parent needs and our child needs were equally important and made decisions for our lives accordingly? And if we were more balanced, then how would we respond to staff, loved ones, and how would they in turn respond to us? Would they be inspired to be more balanced? Would we give them space to figure things out and not jump in and rescue? And what would that feel like? And would that be wonderful, or do we have some fears, worries, doubts about allowing ourselves to be more balanced? So I leave those reflection questions for you, because sometimes I feel like if we're feeling overwhelmed, if we're feeling like person B, it's because we are taking on too much responsibility, under-functioning in our own lives and over-functioning in the lives of our staff, maybe even our loved ones. But what would happen if we allowed ourselves to be more balanced? The world would not fall apart, even though that's our deep fear that it would. We might actually inspire those around us to be more balanced. And it is 5:30, so I'm a woman of my word.
Very good. Thank you, Alejandra. Thank you to all on the line and those who had to leave a bit early for all the good input that you provided. We will get you Alejandra's PowerPoint and the attachments tomorrow. Please do respond to the survey. And I think we can experience a collective calm as we head out into the evening. So thank you all for joining us today. And again, Alejandra, thanks to you. So bye for now.